The most important thing you can do is keep track of what you earn and what you spend, and keep track of what you own and what you owe. So keeping track of your income and expenses and keeping an eye on your net worth are two things that you should be doing regularly and looking at them on a periodic basis.
I'm Junaid Ahmed, host of Hacks and Hobbies podcast and a digital presence advisor at HumbleZone. This episode is brought to you by Home Studio Mastery. I launched a consultation and course program to help podcasters and course creators to create a space in their homes that will reduce the friction of creating content and appearing their best when showing up on camera. The pandemic gave us a lot of issues, but this one is here to stay. We're now so much closer to our audience thanks to video becoming more popular and affordable. I help guide folks who want to create Hollywood-worthy studios to not only capture great content, but also build more confidence, more authority, and be more comfortable in front of the camera. If I can do it, you can too. And with my help, you can do it faster. So if you'd like to learn more, visit homestudiomastery.com and how you too can create a home studio that brings out your personality, professionalism, and possibilities. Thank you for tuning in to Hacks and Hobbies with your host, Junaid. We're visited by our amazing guests coming from all walks of life who want to learn their story, their struggles, and their journey on how they got to where they are today. So stick around. Today we get to speak with Sarah Kaplan. She's a certified financial planner and Forbes-listed Top Advisor. She has spent 20 years advising individuals, families, and companies on the best strategies for how to retire successfully. And now with her new podcast, How to Retire, she's bringing her simplified strategies to you. Let's dig into this episode and feel free to take life hacks that can surely change your perception. Sarah, thank you so much for coming out to the podcast.
You're welcome. It's absolutely a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Junaid.
Absolutely. So we've been talking in the green room about my newborn, experience as parents. And as parents, something that we don't think about as single people is financial planning. Because when you have kids, guess what you need a lot of need a lot of financial capital to raise those kids. I think there's some stats out there that in their lifetime from 0 to 18, you're spending anywhere from $500,000 to $1 million on your kids before they even go to college.
That's correct. I think the projections that I've seen most recently were around somewhere between 500, 700,000. And then, the cost of a 4-year college education, we're now telling clients to expect, depending on in-state, out-of-state, private, public, if you really want to save for any case scenario, you're looking at $400,000 to $500,000 per kid.
Yeah. So where do we get $1 million to spend for each one of our kids, right? It's kind of insane.
It is. And a lot of it really boils down to planning and getting things into manageable bites and creating systems and habits more than, hopefully not overthinking the enormity of the path that you have in front of you. Just like the start of any project, right? You start with the first step.
Absolutely, 100%. So Sarah, share with us a little bit of your backstory, how you got started into financial planning, and that'll get us started into where we're heading.
Sure. So I was actually born into the business. Both my parents were financial services professionals. And my mother actually founded she likes to say we're sisters, but my mother, Candy, founded our company back in the late 70s, really because she wanted to know more about financial planning and financial tools. And when she got started in her career, she originally thought she wanted to be a stockbroker. But in those days, the wirehouses, Morgan Stanley, Smith Barney, Legg Mason, weren't hiring women for anything other than secretarial roles. And strangely enough, the insurance companies were. So as prehistoric as insurance companies are. So she got started in the insurance industry, which frankly was a great start for her because it taught her all about risk first. And then sat for her certified financial planner designation. Fast forward to 2003, I've graduated from business school, and it was the R.H. Smith School of Business at the University of Maryland, brought to you by Accenture. And everybody's expectation was that you would leave business school and go to work for a major consulting firm and work the 3-4-5 work week.
Yeah.
And I looked at my mother and said, how come you've never talked to me about coming into the business? And she said, well, you know what I do. I figure if you were interested, you'd ask, which was, as a parent, brilliant, because it was the exact right way to handle me. And I immediately decided that I wanted to join the family business and come into financial planning. So I studied for all my exams, sat for my certified financial planner designation. I also have a registered health underwriter designation, which really speaks to medical insurance, Medicare, Medicaid. So I can speak to those things as well. I know enough to be dangerous. And I'm an accredited investment fiduciary and have my certificate in retirement planning from the Wharton School of Business at the University of Pennsylvania. I believe very strongly in education and financial literacy and education. And so want to make sure that I'm speaking from a place of knowledge and education when consulting with my clients.
Man, that is amazing. And I love how your mom set it up, right? She said she knew exactly how you were growing up exactly, right? So she knew your mentality, she knew your human nature to set you up in a way that you come to ask for the information as opposed to her pushing down information, to you. Because as parents, we know very well now that if you want anything your kids to do, you have to let them ask for it as opposed to tell them, hey, okay, go learn this. Because as kids, I didn't want to do what my parents were telling me to do or teach.
Oh, 100%. And she knew exactly how to handle me. And, it all worked out, well. I've been in the business now for 20 years. And, I'm almost as far into the business as she was when I joined, which kind of blows my mind.
Yeah.
But as we sit today, we're an independent financial planning, investment advisory, insurance brokerage, and consulting firm, and work with individuals, families, and businesses. So a wide base of things we help consult on a financial basis. But I think our multi-generational relationship also lends itself to family intergenerational planning, because we often have situations where we have clients who are trying to help elderly parents, or they're trying to plan for their kids, or they're doing both at the same time. And understanding those dynamics and how that works psychologically between the generations, we also think is an advantage of ours.
Man, I love that. So you got into the family business because you're like, this is pretty cool. I don't really need to go elsewhere. But you also went through the educational journey to learn more deeper into the rabbit hole. What inspired you to pick that path as opposed to a different one?
I think ultimately, this kind of speaks to what a lot of people are going through right now in the job market.
Oh yeah.
I have a very dear friend of mine who is contemplating completely changing her career, because after 20 years in business, she says, other than some money in my 401k and some money in my bank account, what do I have to show for it? Right? What do I have to show for all these years that I've worked so hard for other people? And I think I looked at the path that my friends were taking in business school and said, you know what? I don't think I want to work for somebody else. I think I want to build something on my own, or continue with building on something that I've been a part of for as long as I can remember. Yeah. And I also remember, and when I looked back on my life growing up and thinking about who was sitting around the dinner table, they were all clients of my mom's. And just feeling those relationships, knowing how deep they were, how important her clients were to her in her life, and how they'd formed some of her strongest relationships in her personal life, really tipped the needle for me. It said, this is a decision I'm making, not just for myself financially and not just for my family and the business, but it's really about the lifestyle I want. And, making sure that I'm feeling really connected to the values of the business and, how I want to spend, the next 40 years of my life in my working career. And
Wow.
the good news is it all turned out well. I love what I do. I'm really passionate about it. And my mother and I also agreed that we were going to put our relationship first because we were very close and we're still very close. And we always said that if our personal relationship was ever in danger, one of us would leave. And gratefully, 20 years in, that's never happened. And she still comes into the office. And, even though I've taken over the reins for the last 8 years as managing partner among other partners in the firm,
Yeah.
I'm very grateful that I was aware enough, even as a younger person, to see that there's a difference between, reaching for that brass ring and saying, you know what, even though it's not maybe as sexy to some people for me to go work in the family business, I know that in the long run, when I have a family, it's a lifestyle decision.
No, I totally love it. And one of the reasons why I ask about the origin story is because it shows me what kind of parents we had and what kind of influence, because we are the first influencers for our kids. So if we set a good example for them, then they're going to follow that path. Like, that this is working. This is really fun. My dad's having fun. My parents are having fun.
Yeah.
We have the financial, we have people coming over and they have their kids, and I've got friends. I want to go down that path, building those relationships. And I think that's really beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. I'm pretty proud of it. It was a unique story for my mom to get started the way she did in that time. And, I look around at everything that she's accomplished and everything that women in my industry in particular have been able to accomplish. We're still a minority in the financial services industry. We represent only about 20% of financial advisors nationally. And I think a lot of women are missing the boat. It's a great profession. It provides a lot of flexibility and gives you a lot of independence and empowerment about making financial and business decisions.
I love that. Your financial planning is something that's been something that I've been missing from my life, mainly because I grew up in a very different environment, right? My parents did all the work, oldest of 7 siblings. It's a very different dynamic, We did not have a family business. And one thing that I would tell my dad was like, our neighbors, they're businessmen. They're able to take all these vacations, do all of this stuff. And then what I didn't understand was that we were also taking vacations, even though my dad worked for a company, but we also did a lot of stuff. But it's always like the grass is greener on the other side kind of mentality because of all the fun that you see otherwise. But if my dad hadn't done all of the things that he did, and he was he grew up on his own. His dad had passed away when he was 7 years old. So with his mom, and to come to this point where all 7 of his siblings have their own homes, their own cars, their own jobs, and right. So just to see that contrast of where he started from as an orphan to where we are now, that just goes to show the success that he has been able to create.
That's remarkable. I think that what a lot of people discount is that a lot of what we learn about our financial life, our financial habits, our work habits, our ethic, our discipline, most of it isn't taught in school, if any. It's all, we learn everything by osmosis through what we experience as we grow up. And our parents are really the first people we observe when looking at business and dealing with money.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, maybe their parents aren't the best role models for financial planning or financial independence. And I think it's always inspiring to me when I meet somebody who was born into a set of circumstances and made a decision and forged their own path and reach their goals and kind of figured it out as they went along, or reached out and got that education, or found that trusted advisor who could lead them through it. And I think it's, it speaks to, your parents, the ethics that they instilled in you, and the work ethic and the determination that you and your siblings have all been successful, because that doesn't always happen in those circumstances.
So true. So true. 100%. And so let's continue on the journey of where you're heading as somebody who's been a CFP, Certified Financial Planner, for the past 20 years, right? Advising individuals, families, and listed one of the top advisors in Forbes. Where's the next journey? Where are you taking your life journey next?
Well, I've been working on this for a little while now. As long as I've been in the business, I've had a passion for financial literacy and bringing financial education and financial concepts to more than just people who have assets. I've done seminars at the junior league and at universities and college campuses across the country to try to help foster an interest in people understanding more about financial education and financial literacy. And we are in the process of building a subscription financial planning model, which will enable people to, at a kind of a lower entry point, be able to pay a fee for financial planning without having to pay large fees to an investment firm, or have significant assets for somebody to manage in order to get that financial advice. And so we're in the process of finalizing that program and launching it at the end of this year, early next year. And a piece of that subscription model is going to be a podcast, which we're going to start rolling out here in September, called How to Retire. And it's going to help people learn the building blocks to financial success. Over the last 20 years, there are things that I've learned that, are tried and true ways to make sure that you set yourself up successfully for your financial life and for retirement. And I want to make sure that people feel like no matter what their circumstances, that those goals are achievable. And that information shouldn't just be for, people who have a certain net worth or people who can afford to pay a certain fee. We want to make sure that information is available to everyone.
I love that. So the podcast is going to be launching in September.
Yep.
How to Retire. It probably already is published by the time this episode goes out.
Yes. Yes. And we're excited about it. It's being released on the Oaks Media Group network. I feel really privileged to be a part of that family, and I'm just excited for the journey and to see where it goes. It's starting really, like I say, with the fundamental building blocks of how do you get started, where to begin, what you need to be focused on, what to kind of throw away that you hear in the news or the media, what are the things to pay attention to, and how do you develop those daily habits, just a little bit every day, bit by bit, developing those habits towards financial success.
I love that. We can't wait to hear the conversations and the strategies, the simplified strategies that you're going to be bringing on the podcast. Super excited for it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. This has been so much fun. Let's take a quick break as we come back with the 3 hacks to share for our audience. Hey guys, we're back to the episode. You've been listening to Sarah Kaplan over here on the Hacks and Hobbies podcast, and it's been such fascination listening to her origin story and what she's been doing to create really amazing plans for families for the past 20 years. It's been a lot of fun. And in the green room, we were just talking about why the educational financial literacy and banking and whatnot is not taught at an early age. She remembers herself remembering about 3 types of clouds in our atmosphere, but not knowing anything about the other stuff that really matters on a day-to-day basis. And I've got the answer for that, why that is. So, in the 50s, when the Soviets launched the rocket ship to space, America was like, okay, we need to create rocket scientists. So that is why we have arithmetic. We learn about trigonometry, all of these mathematics subjects. And an episode earlier on the podcast, we had a guest who talked all about mathematics and his love for it. That's the reason why the education space is focused on math. Math is power, because we're all trying to create rocket scientists. And that's why there's so many levels of mathematics taught in school, even now, because it's going to help you become a better rocket scientist. That's why you know more about clouds than anything else.
That's very interesting. That probably explains why they were teaching us about clouds and not about financial planning. Now you tell me.
So, Sarah, take it away and share with our audience 3 hacks to take away so they can apply in their lives immediately pertaining to being better set up for the future.
Absolutely. I'd be happy to. So first, I would say most important way to help get your financial house set up, whether you're starting from scratch and you're graduating college or newly married, or you feel like you just need a fresh start in your financial life. The most important thing you can do is keep track of what you earn and what you spend, and keep track of what you own and what you owe. So keeping track of your income and expenses and keeping an eye on your net worth are 2 things that you should be doing regularly, and looking at them on a periodic basis. And by periodic basis, I mean, you don't want to be looking at these things every day. I often say that, looking at your 401k balance every day is like weighing yourself every 5 minutes when you're on a diet. You're going to make yourself crazy. You want to pick you want to pick regular points in time where you set a date with yourself to make sure, or your family, that you all sit down and make sure that you're reviewing these things, whether it's quarterly, semi-annually, or annually. And any one of those is fine. So keeping track of your income and expenses and keeping track of your net worth. The second hack I would say is setting up a system that you can maintain. So, some people say using mint.com is the best way to do it. Some people say, YNAB, you need a budget, is the best way, or pen and paper, or balancing your checkbook, right? There's no best way to go about doing any of this. It's all about the system that will enable you to continue tracking it and to be able to maintain, tracking your financial life and being able to review it periodically. So number 1, keeping track. Number 2, something you can maintain. And number 3, and this may be the most important thing, don't panic, ever.
Whew. I'm panicking all the time.
Look, setbacks happen with spending, in the market. We all make the best decisions we can in the moment. And,
Absolutely.
It's about building habits over time. If you went to Costco and you fell prey to that impulse buy, don't beat yourself up about it if it's a little bit, outside of your budget for, that day, that week, that month. Focus on the next thing that you can do to make sure that, you're creating those habits that help you reach your goals. So don't dwell, don't panic, and keep your eye focused on the long term, right? If your goal is to, make sure that you get to X amount of savings or retirement at X time, and you know what you're going to need to do in order to get there. I mean, the financial planning rule of thumb is that everybody should be saving 10 to 15% of their pre-retirement income toward retirement. And if you can't do 10% now and you can do 8%, do that. And then next year when you get a raise, put 1% more into your 401k until you get to that target. And so don't panic if you can't do everything right now.
Yeah.
Just build those habits, start step by step, and you'll get there.
Man, I love that. Thank you so much for those hacks. And you're absolutely right. You got to watch what's coming in, what's going out, and what your current assets are, right?
Right.
And your net worth. And they say your network is your net worth. And that's a totally different version of net worth.
Yes.
Net worth. This is the net worth that you can look at and touch and feel in liquidity. So thank you for that. And then don't panic. That's right. Because guess what? The moment in time, and we see that happening in the market, and who knows where the market's going to be when this episode launches, but the market is going to go up and down because that is how life works. That is that is our heartbeat. That is the days. You can't have the sun up all the time because then you're going to be so bored. Like this is too.
Trust
too
me,
hot.
it would make my job a lot easier if everything went up in a straight line.
Yeah.
But most of our clients wouldn't need us if that was the case. You know, other than helping people figure out the steps that they need to take in order to meet their financial goals, I'd say the other biggest piece of what I do is helping prevent people from making the big mistakes. And I think one of the biggest mistakes people make is reacting emotionally to the market.
Yeah.
Either to the good or the bad. And so it's important to make sure that you've got your time horizon in mind, you have an asset allocation that you can stick with, and you keep that perspective when things start to feel like they're going sideways.
Yeah.
Hopefully by the time everyone's listening to this podcast, things are a little bit better. We got some news on inflation today that wasn't ideal. And so I think people are feeling, I think there's actually an index that tracks consumer sentiment out of the University of Michigan. And it's been around since the early 70s, I think 1971. And in the 50 years that the index has been around, the June reading from the index has never been lower in its history.
Wow.
So consumers have never been more negative about where the economy is. And a very famous investor, Warren Buffett, who has made a lot of money in his life and has helped a lot of other people make a lot of money, has a famous saying that you be fearful when others are greedy and be greedy when others are fearful. And so with everyone feeling really fearful these days, I think it's an incredible opportunity to reevaluate your financial situation. And if you haven't started a program of investing, to get started.
I love that. Thank you so much, Sarah. We'll be sure to include all the links so you can get access to Sarah and figure out your financial planning program and how you can do that. Because again, How to Retire podcast that's coming. I think you mentioned the name before.
Yes, thank you.
And the How to Retire podcast, you can listen in and learn all about how you can get started. But let's jump real quickly on the 6 questions you guys have all been waiting for.
All right,
Number
let's do
1, Sarah. First question. What is the one hobby that you wish you got into?
The one hobby that I wish I got into, I wish I remember what I sent to you in my email, but I will. The one thing I'll say is that there was one hobby that I always wanted to get into, and it actually became my COVID project. So for the last 2.5 years, I have been learning how to run.
Ooh, nice.
I was never a runner. I always hated running. And I'm the type of person that once I make up my mind that I'm going to do something, I set a goal and I figure it out and I do it. So I actually was able to get a Peloton treadmill, and through their coaching program, I found it to be fantastic. This is not a paid ad, but bit by bit, little by little, all of a sudden I'm a runner. So it was a hobby that I always wanted to take up and finally got to.
That's amazing because the one hobby that you wish you had when you submitted was lap swimming. And of course, with COVID, it's not easy to get access to those swim pools.
Oh yeah. Well, so lap swimming. So I think the reason I said that, and it's funny you bring that up. So it kind of ties nicely with the running, right? Because if I ever wanted to be a triathlete, although I can never get my head around the cycling piece of that.
Oh, I can help you with that one. 'Cause I'm a cyclist.
You know, one of the things that I love most about what I do professionally is that I get to meet all kinds of people who do all kinds of things. And the one thing I've noticed among my client base is that the people who tend to stay more physically able the longest into their retirement are the swimmers. There's something about the low impact nature of swimming and helping people stay flexible that swimmers just seem to stay more flexible and more physically able longer into their lives. And so I think that's probably where my head was at when I said that, because and I would agree that I would love to be a lap swimmer, and I absolutely am not. But I think, in my experience, swimmers tend to age the best. That's just my opinion.
Well, there's a lot of truth to that because if you think about it, you're in the water, which is providing also kind of massage to your muscles as you're working your muscles through. That's why a lot of rehab programs have you do rehab work inside water. So, and plus
Yeah.
70% of our bodies are water. So, so it totally
Yeah,
makes sense.
and it's a lot easier on the joints than running is. I'll tell you that.
Oh, absolutely. Give me the thickest sole shoes you want, you got, because I want cushion, stepping on when I'm running out there.
Absolutely.
All right, next question. What did you want to be when you were a child?
Oh, I wanted to be a veterinarian.
A veterinarian.
A veterinarian, either a
I like it.
veterinarian or a zoologist. I always loved animals growing up. I still love animals. And if I wasn't worried about my husband divorcing me, I'd definitely have more. I also don't want to become a crazy cat or dog or pet lady.
Sure.
But I always wanted to be around animals. And I think the reason I decided I didn't want to be a veterinarian was because it was going to be too hard for me to see animals in pain.
Yeah. Well, the other route is to go by a zoo, like Matt Damon did in We Bought a Zoo.
I know, right? Yeah, maybe
That was
maybe with my next husband. I don't think this one will let's be okay with that.
All right. Well, that takes us right into what is your favorite movie or TV show?
That one is easy. My absolute all-time favorite TV show was a show called Psych.
Oh my God.
It aired on USA for 7 or 8 years, and it just absolutely encapsulates everything I love about television. It was funny and charming and didn't take itself seriously and really played into its following and the fans and the audience. Yeah, exactly. Yes, that's the hand gesture.
The hand gesture on his brain.
Yeah, exactly. I'm always one to say, if you're not having fun, what's the point? And I think that most people take life way too seriously in general. And I appreciate anything that can make fun of itself. And I feel like Psych always did that really well.
Oh, they did. They absolutely did. My wife and I would watch that show religiously every time it came on. And then we were so excited when the movie came out. Like, oh my God, they finally did it.
I know. And then there was another movie, and I think they've got a few more planned. So
oh my God, I can't wait.
I'm excited about that. I'm so excited that you know Psych, because not everybody knows that show. It's been off the air now for a while.
It's been a while since it's been off the air. That's right.
But such a great show, and it holds up really well. Just in case you want to get started.
You can go back and watch it on. I think it's available on a few networks. I think
it's on definitely Peacock, because I think USA is owned by NBC, so I think you can get it on Peacock.
All right, go check out on Peacock. Follow our link to Psych, the TV show. What movie would you choose if you got to play a character in it?
What movie would I choose if I got to play a character in it? I don't remember what I said here. You'll forgive me. I couldn't find. This
is a live question. It was not on the form.
Okay, good. Because I know my answer, so I wanted to make sure that I wasn't. So I would say if honestly, one of my all-time favorite movies is The Birdcage with Nathan Lane and Robin Williams. For whatever reason, I love that movie, probably because I love both Nathan Lane and Robin Williams. And if you haven't seen it, it's definitely worth a watch. And I would have loved to be in that movie and be a character in that movie, maybe be one of their kids. It's just, they only have one son in the movie, but it's so funny and so great. And, actually just even thinking about the late Robin Williams, he was one of my all-time favorites.
Oh my God. Same here.
And there were so many other people in that movie who were fantastic. But that's the one I would pick.
Looks like Birdcage is available if you have a Amazon Prime membership. Go check it out.
There you go.
All right, next question. Who is your favorite superhero?
All right, my favorite superhero. And I feel like I did answer this one. But if I had to guess what I wrote when we scheduled this, I'm going to say my favorite superhero. I'm trying to remember what I said.
No, this was also a live question.
Oh,
sorry.
okay, good. Okay, sorry about that. All right, so favorite superhero. So I will say this. I will say I love Deadpool because Deadpool is fantastic.
Come on.
I know, but I also really enjoy some of the characters that they've explored more recently in the Marvel universe. So, and some of the stronger female characters like Valkyrie and Captain Marvel. So I would say between the two, probably I'm really interested to see the next Captain Marvel movie. I thought they did a really good job with her. And
absolutely amazing job. Yeah.
Like strong female role models, especially in superheroes.
And what's cool is that Miss Marvel, that's I think today is the last episode.
Oh yeah.
It dropped on Disney Plus, has been amazing, and Miss Marvel is supposed to show up with Captain Marvel in the next movie.
Oh, fun. Yeah. I'm a little behind on my MCU TV watching. So
Sure.
I haven't seen Moon Knight. Don't give me any spoilers. I did just get to watch, with kids, you'll appreciate. I don't get to stay completely current, but I did finally watch the new Doctor Strange.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
And I know I needed to watch that before I saw Moon Knight and Ms. Marvel. So I'm excited to get started on the shows.
Yeah, Miss Marvel is really cool, mainly because, and this is kind of like it highlights my culture as someone from Pakistan.
Okay.
And Miss Marvel, or the character that plays Miss Marvel, Kamal Khan, is also from Pakistan. So there's a lot of history. There's a lot of talking about what happened. So it was a really, like, I was crying. My wife's like, I have friends who play the character in the movie, in the show, that like 2 connections away. In fact, one of my friends did like the adhan in one of the episodes. So it was really cool that, we get some kind of representation in the MCU and superhero world.
That's fantastic. I'm glad to hear you say that they did it well, because I'll be really excited to watch it.
Yeah, it was awesome. All right, last question, and this is a quirky one.
Okay.
If you were a board game, what would it be?
If I was a board game, what would I be? Well, I'm going to have to go back to a classic. And I'm going to say Clue. I'm going to say Clue. I know the probably the expected answer for somebody in the financial services industry is Monopoly, but it's what I do for a living. I don't need that in my board game life.
Exactly.
I was always a huge fan of Clue growing up. I loved the strategy of it. And once again, the movie, another great movie, another classic movie. If you've never seen Clue, it's a fun time, a great cast, and, funny as well. So I'm going to say Clue. Yeah.
I love that. Clue was definitely a good one with Eileen. No, this is the one from 85.
Yeah, so it was like Tim Curry and Michael McKean and
Madeline Kahn.
Madeline Kahn, who was absolutely incredible. But yeah, that was a great movie.
I love
a good one, a golden oldie nowadays.
Oh, Christopher Lloyd's in there too.
Yes.
How can we forget Christopher Lloyd?
Yes. No, absolutely.
Great Scott.
And a friend of Psych too.
And a friend of Psych, exactly.
They actually did a Clue episode in Psych.
I think I might remember if I go see it again, because I've seen every single episode of Psych.
Yeah.
All right, Sarah. Well, this was so much fun talking with you. Thank you so much for sharing your experience, your wisdom with my superpreneurs, and I wish you the very best with your podcast. Can't wait to listen to it, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate your time. Thank you to your audience, and enjoy the show and appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this episode on Hacks and Hobbies. We absolutely appreciate your contribution. You can find additional notes on hacksandhobbies.com. Please share the podcast with your friends and tell them what you learned about our guest today.